Jacob had now arrived in Egypt with the Ishmaelite traders. He was then purchased by Potiphar, a member of the personnel staff of King Pharaoh. Potiphar was captain of the palace guard. The Lord was with Joseph, and he blessed him greatly as he served in the home of his Egyptian master. Potiphar realized that the Lord was with Joseph, giving him success in everything he did. So naturally, Joseph became quite a favorite to him. Soon Potiphar put Joseph in charge of his entire household, as well as entrusted him with all his business dealings. The moment Joseph was put in charge, the Lord began to bless Potiphar for Joseph's sake. All his household affairs began to run smoothly. His crops and livestock flourished. So Potiphar then gave Joseph complete administrative responsibility over everything he owned. He didn't have a worry in the world with Joseph there. He only needed to decide what he wanted to eat. Joseph was a very handsome man. He was well built too. Around this time, Potiphar's wife began to desire him, and she invited him to sleep with her. Thankfully, Joseph refused and said, "Look, my master trusts me with everything in his household. No one here has more authority than I do. He has held nothing back from me except you, because you are his wife. How could I ever do such a thing? It would be great sin against God." She would pressure him day after day, but he avoided her and refused to sleep with her. But one day, there was no one around while he was doing his work inside the house. She came in and grabbed him by his shirt and demanded him to sleep with her. Joseph tore himself away, ripping his shirt in the process. He then ran out of the house while she was still holding his shirt. When she realized she still had his shirt and she saw him running away, she began screaming. Soon all the men came running. She then sobbed and said, "My husband has brought this Hebrew slave to insult us. He tried to rape me, but I screamed. When he heard me scream, he ran, leaving his shirt behind." She kept his shirt, and when her husband came home that night, she told him her story. After hearing his wife's stories, Potiphar became furious. He took Joseph and threw him into prison, where the king's prisoners were held. But the Lord never left Joseph. He was with him there too. The Lord granted Joseph favor with the chief jailer. Not long after the chief jailer put Joseph in charge of everything, he was in charge of all the other prisoners and everything that happened in the prison. Joseph took care of everything, and so the chief jailer had no worries after that. The Lord was with Joseph, making everything run smoothly and successfully. Some time had gone by. Pharaoh's chief cupbearer and chief baker had offended him, and so Pharaoh became very angry with them, and of course threw them in prison. They remained in prison for quite some time. Potiphar then assigned Joseph to take care of them. One night the baker and the cupbearer each had a dream. Each of their dreams had a meaning of their own. The next morning Joseph noticed the dejected look on their faces. He then asked, "Why do you look so worried today?" "We both had dreams last night, but there is no one to tell us what they mean," they replied. Joseph replied, "Interpreting dreams is God's business. Tell me what you saw." The cupbearer then told his dream. "I saw a vine in front of me. It had 3 branches that began to bud and bloom, and soon there were clusters of grapes. I was holding Pharaoh's wine cup in my hand, so I took the grapes and squeezed the juice into it. Then I placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand." Joseph then said, "I know what that dream means. The 3 branches mean 3 days. Within 3 days, Pharaoh will take you out of prison, and you will return to your position as his chief cupbearer. Please have some pity on me when you are back in his favor. Mention me to Pharaoh, and please ask him to let me out of here. I was kidnapped from my homeland, the land of the Hebrews, and now I'm in jail, and I have done nothing wrong." When the chief baker saw that the first dream had such good meaning, he then told his dream. He went on to say, "In my dream there were 3 baskets of pastries on my head. The top basket had all kinds of bakery goods for Pharaoh, but the birds came and ate them." Joseph replied, "I'll tell you what it means. The 3 baskets mean 3 days. 3 days from now you will be taken, and Pharaoh will cut off your head and impale your body on a pole. The birds will then come and peck away at your flesh. 3 days later it was Pharaoh's birthday. He then gave a banquet for all his officials and household staff. He then sent for his chief cupbearer and baker. He then restored the position of the chief cupbearer, but sentenced the chief baker to be impaled on a pole, just as Joseph had predicted. However, Pharaoh's chief cupbearer had promptly forgotten about Joseph and never gave him another thought.